All right, welcome back into another episode of the Idea Collision. My name is Andrew Green. I am the host of this podcast. And what we do here, for those who may be newly joining us, is that we look at ideas that intersect in some way, and not always in ways that you expect. Sometimes a lot of these have paradoxical effects, kind of, in fact, we've been looking at paradoxical values in younger generations. In other words, these are stated ideals that younger generations have. It would work with any generation because we all kind of do this a little bit. We assemble values that we have, and over time we assemble some that are not always compatible. I always use, because it works. We understand money, and we understand things like this is very tangible. So I use examples a lot of times from our commercial decisions and priorities to illustrate this. For example, I personally I don't like to buy junk. So I like value. So we'll say, I like quality. I like to buy quality things. I also have the value of buying things inexpensively. Now, in a lot of cases, those are incompatible things. You can't always, if you want quality, you're not going to go to the dollar store or whatever, right? You're not going to get something of quality. You're going to get something satisfactory maybe, but it's not quality. So when you have something that's paradoxical like this, for example, then what you find is one of these is going to be a core value, and one of these is going to be a preference. So with me, I suppose it depends on the item too, but one of these is going to win out when it's important. Am I going to buy something and have to buy it again, or am I going to because I bought something not quality, or, am I more focused on the cause? I'm not sure which one I really, maybe it depends on the item, I suppose. I don't know. But we typically have one that we weight, and that will be our more core of the two values. We can't always have both. So we talked about that. So that's not really where I'm going to focus today. We'll probably come back to another financial illustration, but I want to talk about values of the value of liberty or freedom, independence. We talk about independence a little bit, and I want to I think we've talked about that before, but I want to come back to the idea in looking at it as is it a core value, or is it a preference, merely a preference? So we're not going to look at the same exact way that we have before. We like the idea, I think, of liberty, and as a teenager, we all loved this idea of freedom from our parents. Freedom from rules is really what we wanted. We wanted not to be told what to do. I get out on my own and be my own boss and things like that. Now, I don't know, younger generations have that goal. So I think we still like the idea of it. Don't tell me what to do. A lot of people like the idea of a government, a limited government. You'll hear that a lot. A government that doesn't tell me what to do, gets out of my life, and they're very restrictive, and I don't like that there's too many laws, they're in my personal life, etc. And a lot of terminology, no matter what the political spectrum, right, that you belong to, or what side of the political spectrum you belong to, you will see these phrases, that espouse the idea of the government not telling me what to do. I guess a lot of times it just depends on it's kind of like what kind of product I am, what my core value is. But they'll say, well, I want the government in this topic, but not in that topic, So we like the idea. I say we like the idea of independence, but I'm not sure that we actually like liberty and freedom. you know, I am old enough to remember when insurance jumped from covering a kid from 18 up to 18, and then it went up to 21. I benefited from that for like a year. I had a significant medical issue that kind of came about when just after I turned 21. So I benefited from it for about a year. It's now health insurance now covers a child till age 26. We'll come back to that. Right now, we have the highest number of children living at home as we've had since the Great Depression. Of course, what's the situation in the Great Depression was a lot of people couldn't find work. There simply wasn't work. So in order to pool, not everyone could afford homes. So you tried to pool. If you had a couple of wage earners, we pooled it together and tried to, maintain living quarters and meager food, for the 9 years, and then we got into the war and things like that, and that took care of it. But, that's not the situation right now. We're not in a depression. So why is this happening? We're in one of the most prosperous times in our country's history, and yet people are still living like we're in a depression in terms of living at home. So it's not. These kids all have cell phones. They all have a computer or more. They have a tablet of some sort. They have technology crazy, right? They have nice vehicles. I took my son down to college, and we were going on vacation, so we dropped his car off in the town, and then we were going to take a 3-week vacation and then come back. It was our first son going to college, and so we wanted to do a last family outing, and so we did that, and we pulled in. Now my son had it just finally died on him. Had a vehicle that was, it was what most of us who are a little older remember of having our first car. It was a beater, right? And so it was not pretty. But what do you expect? You're going to college, right? You're in high school. You're going to college. You expect. I just remember college and high school, and I remember the cars that you saw in college and high school, and they were all beaters. So I was just kind of expecting, he's going to have. I thought his car was cool because it was a Standard. No one drives a Standard anymore. And I had done some body work to it, not nice body work because I'm not that good at it, but, to repair at least some holes and patches and rust spots and things like that. I was expecting one thing when I brought him to college, and that was not what I saw. When I pulled in, I thought, his was just going to be one of a bunch of crappy cars, and maybe one or two rich dads would have bought. No, the whole parking lot was, F-350s and Mustangs and, Chargers, and it was just, they're all really super nice vehicles. And I'm like, we don't live in a depression. And these kids, so they graduate from college, and they, if they go to college, one way or the other, at 26, 27, 28, they're still in their parents' homes. So it's not a financial, poverty issue. It is something else. It is, it's it's not survival. It's avoidance of some sort. They are afraid of life. And we've talked about the fears, and I don't want to go back into the fears, but at 26, their parents and their grandparents had their own homes. They likely were already into their second child of, in previous generations by age 26. And so something has changed from then to now. Well, liberty has different concepts when we talk about liberty or freedom or independence, right? There's a tangible idea, and that goes back to what we talked about. This is the idea that they like. It's what is tangible, and that's leave me alone. That's very tangible. Don't tell me what to do. We like that. We can understand that. That's in our face. So someone's telling me what to do. Time to do the dishes. Time to do this. Time to do that. I can see that. I can feel that, and I want independence from that. There's the abstract idea, and I think this is where maybe some of the fear comes in. Is go out and do for yourself. That has a lot of different things that can be. It's very abstract. What does that mean? Do I get my own job? I find my own place? Am I going to rent? Am I going to? So it brings in choices, and from this it brings a lot of fears of unknown and things like that. Not merely the fears that they were taught. We talked about the different fears that our generations have instilled, the older generations have instilled of environment and all these things when we talked about fear. But just the natural fears that people have. But these have always occurred. There's always been insecurity when you're doing something for the first time or what have you. But for some reason they're incapable of dealing with these fears, whereas before we were we muscled through it. Something is different in this generation. It's not them, right? They're people, they're human beings. Nothing has changed in the human genetic code that makes them worse kids or something than their predecessors. There has been something that has happened to them, or I should say something that's not happened to them. And I think that a lot of these fears that they have, these other fears, not the ones that we talked about earlier, but fears of life and things and choices and independence, it arises from not being taught, not from being taught, right? It is one thing to instill certain fears in your child, and we instill fear in our children. There's things I want them to be afraid of. I want them to be afraid of fentanyl and things like that. There's fears that we should instill in our children, but there are fears that they have because they haven't been taught. They haven't had to struggle with things. So why should they be, right? In the Great Depression, if we go back to that illustration, if we go back to the Great Depression, things were done. And independence was taught, or I should say dependence was taught as a means of necessity, right? Live at home because we have to, right? That's the way things were. And so, they also needed to teach them independence because we needed kids to get out and work. And so children worked at a younger age. So there was kind of like a give and take. They were still able to function and do stuff as children because the expectations were there. But we don't need those now, right? Because we live in an affluent society for the most part. Not everyone feels that or experiences it, but for the most part, it's available to you if you want it. So, but why should we teach our kids? We have such an abundance in our society. Why should I have to teach my kids about being responsible with money? Because money is just there. We have it. And I know that it's using a lot of money illustrations, but there again, it's tangible. We understand it and we comprehend these. Why should I have to teach my kids to be responsible or to budget? Right now, when I say it that way, we recognize that as a wrong thing, but we do it anyway. We don't sit down and teach how to budget or how to invest. If your kid has a way of achieving some kind of financial improvement, he's got a job somewhere or whatever, or you just give him money, whatever way he has money, right? We just let them spend it. Oh, it's their play money. They're kids. Let them spend their money and have fun. There's time when they're older to save and do things like that. So it's all fun money. And again, this is not a podcast about money or even about raising kids, but I'm trying to teach a greater point about these feelings of independence, so that children are trained right? Because we haven't trained them to be responsible. We haven't taught them. We have taught them. We've trained them in a different way. There's a statement in the Bible that says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Well, that has a positive and a negative, really. If you train up a child in the right way, he will have those tools when he's older. But if you refuse to train up your child, then you're going to train your child a different way. You're going to train him to do what he does without the tools. So if he doesn't know how to invest or save or any type of financial responsibility as a 10-year-old, well, he's not going to have it at 20. And so kids are graduating and they have no tools because they haven't needed them. Parents have had enough money, they've had a space, and so they're going to college to get an associate's degree. They're out on their own at 20, or they're they go to college, they take out these loans and stuff, and all of a sudden, and you see this today in real time, kids have no idea these loans, college loans, have like completely they annihilated them. Talk to someone who had college loans in the 70s and 80s, back when the percentage was like 26% or 22% or some crazy nonsense that college loans had back then, and unforgivable then, just as they are now. It was devastating, but people muscled through it. Why? Because they had training. For the most part, they understood concepts of money. And again, this is not about money. It illustrates the point about independence. I think when we think of independence, probably money is the way we most understand the ability to do. I mean, there are two things in life, in natural life, that make us independent: a vehicle to get places, right? You don't have to depend on people for a ride, and money, and those two go hand in hand. But now they don't know how to save or invest. Now they're adults. They get jobs. Right? They go to college, they get a job. And what have they been trained to do? Right? Parents train them that every flashy item is something to buy because my money is play money. So they don't understand taxes, they don't understand any of this stuff. And so adult choices paralyze them. Right? Saying no is a paralyzing thing. Making a choice of this or that is paralyzing. So I saw an article that was championing the idea of kids living at home well into 20s, and it says, because it can help them save money. Well, that'd be wonderful, but they're not saving money. They don't save money. They're not been trained to save money. They're at home spending money and playing video games. And I'm sure it's not everybody playing video, but there's a reason that's a cliche. It's because they have all the technology. And they're living at home. They're not at home because they want to save up money. They're at home because they don't know how to live, because they haven't been trained how to live, and now the parents are in a conundrum because they don't think that their kids can survive. So they're forced into, or they feel forced into, they've painted themselves into a corner is what's happened. Now I have to let this kid survive in my house because, why? Well, I didn't train him. He doesn't know how to survive. He doesn't know what to do. He's totally paralyzed. Right? Well, life is going to catch up to you. It is. Your parents are going to retire. They're going to be on a fixed income. They're going to move into smaller places, maybe move into retirement places, which are not going to allow kids to stay with them. I don't care if, just the fact that we're talking about 26-year-olds as kids is a problem. Just the fact that an insurance company would say children 26 years old can be on a policy. They're not children. Their grandparents were well on their way to full families and their own homes. So they're not children. Why are we calling them? That's really an indicator of the problem, that we're calling adults children. Right? They have no concept of the ability of independence. Not because of them. It's because of the adults. The previous adults have not trained them to be adults. There's been no training. If you expect nothing of somebody in any circumstance, if you expect nothing of somebody, they will meet your requirement. Right? What your level of expectation is. If you say, my expectation is for you is that you can make your bed, and that's all that you expect and not die. Please don't overdose. Don't do drugs and make your bed. If that's all you have of expectations of your kids, They might meet that, and you'll be glad that they graduate, and they had a semi neat room, and they didn't die, and they'll graduate, and that's all you'll have. You haven't trained them. Your expectations will be met, if they are actual expectations. They're not preferences. Again, if your kid has a messy room, then it's not an expectation. It's just a preference. I would like you to clean your room. Right? Or, okay, listen, I'm taking away your technology until you clean your room. Oh, now it's an expectation. So, so in this independence, right? When it's forced upon them by life circumstances, they're going to resent not just the circumstance. They'll resent being forced into independence, but they're going to resent who they perceive, and correctly perceive, as the culprit. Who gave them the inability, or I should say, who didn't give them the ability to be adults, right? They're going to resent their parents, and we see this, and we've talked about this, that there's one of the highest degrees of resentment in parents or in children of their parents in recent times is now. Why? Because their parents have not equipped them. And I don't want this to be a child raising thing. That's the world I live in. So some of these things are visceral to me. And that's my life. So I kind of talk about things that are real to me. So you might not be in that category of raising children. You might more identify with the person that is a victim of this process. You feel you're out on your own and you feel paralyzed or what have you. We're going to look at kind of exploring this a little bit more, but what we've done as parents, what I've done as parents, if I'm in this situation, is I've set them up for failure, and failure is a topic we want to explore a little bit more. They don't have the tools to cope with life and independence. They're not equipped for it at all. Our society has so focused on one aspect of getting them ready. We've done them a disservice. Basically, we've focused on the affirmation, the "you can do it" mentality, repeating to them that they can do it. Oh yes, you can do it. You can get out there. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. That does not lay a foundation for success. In fact, what it is by itself, it's actually counterproductive. I constantly tell them that they can do it. When I have given them no tools, they're going to fail. They're doomed to fail. And they're going to resent it even more that I've told them they can do it when they get out there and they haven't been trained to do these things. They don't have the ability to do it. So there's a lot of applications, again, depending on where you are at. Now, you might be a parent. Today is the day to start raising the bar in terms of expectations. Now is the time to expect things of their money, to expect things of them. We personally, you want to, in all areas, we have expectations. So our children have to volunteer somewhere at some point in time. They have to do something productive on a volunteer basis that they're not getting paid for. That's a part of being a human being, is interacting and serving other people. And so we require that, and we reach resistance. And it's like, listen, everybody has done it. They volunteered at the YMCA. They volunteered at a Humane Society. Whatever it is, you have to do something. Pick it. You get to choose it, but you're going to do it. So that's one thing. You have expectations of their money. You're not just spending everything. You're gonna. We give money to God in church. We save money. We have them invest money, and then they get to spend money. So we have those expectations. As parents, you have to do that so that when they get out on their own, they have these tools. It's not completely foreign to them. There's all sorts of areas of independence that they need to know. Living arrangements, all sorts of things. If you're a parent with a kid at home, now you're like, I don't know what to do. It seems too late. Listen. And these are the two things you can do. Number one, you set a date where they're going to be out. You say, listen, right now. Okay, you don't have money. These are the tools that you need to get to where you can move out, but this is the date you're going to move out on. Right? We've got to get them out of the nest. Now you can say, listen, that's going to mean you have to have this much money, and this might be where you have to start teaching them how to budget and do all these things. But you have to pick a point, because if you just say sometime you have to do it, it will never happen. Now, set a date. Listen, you got 6 months to save up money for an apartment, down payment, whatever, and help them. Or show them the tools. If you're not really sure how to do this stuff yourself and you just kind of survived in life, you've got to give them some tools. I'll give you one in a second here. But you might be a younger person and like, my parents didn't help me. I'm barely treading water myself. Maybe I am on my own, but I don't feel like I'm accomplishing much. So I will suggest, again, financial things are where a lot of this begins. I would suggest something called the Dave Ramsey courses, Financial Peace. If you want to look at that, you can find that all over the place. And he gives just basic financial tools of how to get independent and responsible with your money, so that you're not living paycheck to paycheck, things like that. Right? You may have a friend like this. They might just need kind of support in terms of people helping them make the right decisions. So I don't have to eat out all the time, or whatever it is. These positive choices in life, wherever we are at, whether I'm a young person, whether I'm an older person, you might be a mentor of somebody in your church, or however, a teacher, a guidance counselor, whatever. We have to guide them in their transition to adulthood, right? They need their own wings. They have to be productive members of society. And if we've enabled them, they're going to resist this process. But I do guarantee you that they will thank you later when they see what that abstract area of independence does for them. So this week is just a week to start, take stock of where you're at, who you are, and what the challenges you face in this area. If you know people, maybe your family's perfect, you've got it under control, and this is really falling on deaf ears for you, but you likely know people, and families who are struggling in this area. We as Christians, I come in and look at our answering machine, and it's constantly filled with people needing money. Oh, we need rent. We have something led to needing rent money. And we can't, as a church, we can't just go giving rent money out to everybody in the world. What led you to this place? What got you here? Something got you here. So analyze where you're at, people whatever, and start looking for a way to help improve a life around you, or to improve your own life in some way, and see the changes that start immediately, and the confidence that comes from kind of even having a plan, even if they're not out on their own, or you're not out on your own this week. The confidence that comes from having a concrete plan, turning some of the abstract into something concrete, is going to bring a lot of confidence. So I hope a good week for you, and we'll see you again next week.